Olivia Bennett sat upright in her chair, facing Claire Whitmore, TechVantage's head of HR, and Lillian Brooks, the company's human resources representative. Both women wore carefully composed expressions, the kind meant to project professionalism while masking the cold reality of what they were about to do. Olivia had dedicated 15 years of her life to this company, but in their eyes that meant nothing. Claire cleared her throat, her expression neutral, but there was a faint flicker of satisfaction in her eyes. Olivia, after 15 years with TechVantage, we're making some strategic changes. Unfortunately, your position is being restructured. Lillian, sitting beside her, smoothly slid a manila folder across the table. Her voice polished and practiced. The company is moving in a new direction. Your contributions have been invaluable, but we've decided to consolidate the research division under the product development team. Olivia glanced down at the folder without opening it. She already knew what was inside. A standard severance package. 2 weeks' pay for every year of service, 3 months of continued health coverage, and a list of career counseling resources she would never use. She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. "I understand," she replied, her voice calm and unwavering. For a split second, she saw the tension ease from their shoulders. They had been expecting anger, tears, or perhaps desperate pleas to keep her job. But Olivia wasn't about to give them that satisfaction. Claire nodded, regaining her composure. "We'd like you to clean out your desk by Friday," she continued, speaking with the same corporate detachment as before. "We'll need your keycard, company laptop, and phone before you leave. Your team will be informed this afternoon." Her team. 6 brilliant engineers whom Olivia had personally recruited, trained, and mentored. The same team that had worked tirelessly with her to develop the distributed processing algorithm, the core technology that powered TechVantage's flagship product, AccountSphere, the accounting software now used by over 40% of Fortune 500 companies. She stood up, keeping her movements deliberate, the manila folder still in hand. "Is there anything else?" Claire and Lillian exchanged brief glances, seemingly thrown off by her composure. Claire recovered first, clearing her throat. "That's all for now. Thank you for handling this professionally." Without another word, Olivia turned and walked out of the conference room. As she made her way back to her office, she passed by the glass-walled executive boardroom. Inside, Nathan Sterling, CEO of TechVantage, stood at the head of the table, gesturing at a PowerPoint presentation titled Q3 Revenue Projections. Olivia didn't need to hear the details to know what he was saying. He was likely boasting about the performance of their best-selling software, built on the very algorithm she had created. She gripped the folder a little tighter. They thought they could erase her contributions so easily. They thought she was just another aging engineer who would fade away quietly. They had no idea what was coming. She stepped into her office and shut the door, pulling out her personal phone. A single text message was sent. "It's happening. Friday is my last day." The response came almost immediately. "Perfect timing. Contracts are ready. Dinner tonight to finalize details." A slow smile spread across Olivia's lips. They thought they had won. But they had just made the biggest mistake of their careers. Because next Monday, Olivia Bennett wouldn't just be another discarded employee. She would be a force to be reckoned with. Olivia Bennett stepped into Meridian, an upscale restaurant carefully chosen for its discretion. The warm glow of chandeliers cast soft golden hues across the polished mahogany tables, and delicate wooden partitions shielded high-profile diners from prying eyes. At the far end of the room, in a secluded alcove, Jonathan Pierce, CEO of Precision Systems, was already seated, a glass of red wine swirling lazily in his hand. Olivia moved toward the table, her posture composed but deliberate. Tonight was not about pleasantries or small talk. It was about making a move that would reshape the industry. She pulled out a chair and sat across from Jonathan, meeting his knowing gaze. He set his glass down and smirked. They actually did it. She didn't need to ask what they meant. Instead, she let out a breath, leaning back slightly. "I knew they would. I just didn't think they'd be so reckless about it." Jonathan shook his head, an incredulous chuckle escaping his lips. What kind of company forces out the very person who built their foundation? Olivia's expression hardened. The kind run by a CEO who doesn't understand his own technology. She exhaled slowly, choosing her words carefully. Nathan Sterling sees the interface, the sales numbers, the marketing potential. But the actual architecture, the thing that makes everything function. To him it's just some tech stuff. Something replaceable. Jonathan's smirk deepened. And he assumes anyone can rebuild it from scratch. Olivia tilted her head slightly. He's about to learn just how wrong he is. She reached into her bag and retrieved a neatly organized folder, placing it on the table between them. Jonathan opened it, his eyes scanning through the first few pages. His expression shifted, his amusement giving way to admiration. A 43% efficiency boost, he said, raising an eyebrow. Olivia nodded. And that's just the beginning. There are additional refinements I've been working on, improvements that push performance even further. But TechVantage will never see them. Jonathan set the folder down, tapping a finger thoughtfully against the table. And you're sure about the patent? She met his gaze squarely. I triple-checked. TechVantage never filed the patent for my distributed processing algorithm. I made my move before they even realized their mistake. 3 months ago, Olivia had stumbled upon what was arguably the biggest blunder in TechVantage's history. She had long suspected that Nathan Sterling and his executive team were planning to push her out. Her exclusion from key meetings, the vague responses from HR, and most damning of all, an accidentally forwarded email thread discussing the future of her department without her input. But the real revelation had come when she decided to dig deeper. She had accessed internal documentation, finding an unsigned legal brief that detailed TechVantage's plan. Claim the distributed processing algorithm as company property. Secure the patent under TechVantage's name, without naming her as the inventor. Push Olivia out before finalizing the patent filing, ensuring she had no legal recourse. But their arrogance had cost them. They had assumed they had all the time in the world to manipulate the situation to their advantage. Olivia had moved first. She had quietly refined her algorithm on her own time, using her personal equipment, ensuring it was completely separate from her work at TechVantage. Then she had filed for her own patent, complete with timestamps, development logs, and supporting documents that proved beyond doubt that the enhancements were hers, not TechVantage's. By the time TechVantage realized what had happened, it was already too late. Now, she was sitting across from Jonathan Pierce, finalizing a deal that would turn her into their biggest competitor. Jonathan reached into his own briefcase and pulled out a contract, sliding it toward her. We've prepared everything. As soon as you sign, Precision Systems gains exclusive rights to your patent. Monday morning, we announce you as our new Chief Innovation Officer. Olivia didn't hesitate. She picked up the pen, scanned the document, not because she doubted the terms, but because she wanted to savor this moment. Then, with a single clean signature, she changed the game. Jonathan lifted his glass. Welcome to Precision Systems, Olivia. Monday is going to be interesting. The TechVantage office was quieter than usual as Olivia packed up her belongings. Her desk, once filled with research notes and sketches, was now bare except for a neatly stacked pile of her personal effects. A framed photo, a few industry awards, and a coffee mug gifted by her team last Christmas. Colleagues drifted by, their eyes flickering with a mix of sympathy and curiosity. Some whispered to each other, others hesitated as if considering whether to say something. She could sense the unease. They knew something was off. Before leaving, she pulled out her phone and sent a quick message to Ryan Delgado, her lead engineer. Check your personal email. You all have offers. She knew what would happen next. By Monday morning, TechVantage would be waking up to absolute chaos. Nathan Sterling would storm into his office, demanding explanations. The legal team would scramble to find loopholes that didn't exist. The board members would start asking difficult questions. And her team. They would already be preparing for their new roles at Precision Systems. As she walked through the main lobby, she paused just before stepping outside. Looking up, she spotted the executive boardroom, its floor-to-ceiling windows illuminated from within. Nathan Sterling was in there. He thought he had won. He thought she was just another discarded employee, someone to be replaced and forgotten. Olivia let out a breath, her lips curving into a slow, knowing smile. Just wait, Nathan. Come Monday, he wouldn't be celebrating. He would be fighting to save his company. Olivia sat in her new office at Precision Systems, a steaming cup of coffee on her desk as she refreshed her inbox. 7 a.m. The official press release had just gone live. It took 15 minutes for the news to explode across the tech industry. Precision Systems had secured exclusive rights to the distributed processing algorithm developed by Olivia Bennett, the very technology TechVantage was entirely dependent on. Every major industry publication ran the story, crediting Olivia as the true creator of the system that had propelled TechVantage to the top. By 9:15 a.m., the first message from Ryan Delgado popped up on her phone. Absolute chaos over here. You just dropped a bomb on TechVantage. A smirk. This was just the beginning. 8 miles away, inside TechVantage's headquarters, the usual Monday morning leadership meeting had dissolved into absolute crisis mode. Nathan Sterling stormed into the executive boardroom, his face pale as he took in the assembled legal team and the company's CFO. Every laptop in the room was open, screens displaying headlines from major news outlets. Precision Systems acquires exclusive rights to groundbreaking algorithm, threatening TechVantage's future. A cold wave of dread swept over Nathan as he read those words. What the hell is going on? His voice was sharp, demanding answers. One of the company's attorneys, her expression tense, flipped open a thick binder filled with legal documents. We've reviewed the situation. The patent is filed under Olivia Bennett's name. She secured it before we even attempted to file. Legally, she owns the technology. Murmurs erupted around the table. Several executives exchanged wide-eyed glances. That's impossible, Nathan snapped. She developed that algorithm while working here. It belongs to us. The attorney shook her head. Her recent improvements to the technology were made on personal time, using personal resources. It's ironclad. We have no legal claim. A heavy silence fell over the room. Nathan's fingers curled into fists against the table as realization set in. Olivia had outmaneuvered them. The boardroom doors swung open suddenly. A frantic assistant rushed in, out of breath. Sir, our stock is tanking. Down 7% in less than 2 hours. Investors are flooding us with calls. Nathan felt a headache forming. Before he could respond, another incoming call from the client services department lit up his phone. 2 major enterprise clients were requesting emergency meetings. They needed assurances that TechVantage still had rights to the algorithm powering AccountSphere. But the truth was, they didn't. Nathan clenched his jaw. He knew there were only 2 possible options. Negotiate with Precision Systems to license the algorithm, which meant paying an outrageous price and publicly admitting that Olivia was the rightful inventor. Attempt to redevelop the technology from scratch, which would take years and cost millions, while competitors swooped in to steal their market share. Neither option was acceptable. Another message from Ryan appeared on Olivia's phone. They just wheeled in all our department servers to analyze. Nathan looks like he's about to explode. She typed back a simple response. Do you remember how to read your employment contract? Of course. Good. Check your personal email. There's an offer waiting. Ryan took a moment before responding. I saw this coming, but damn. I'll talk to the team. When can we start? Olivia smiled. Next Monday. Meanwhile, at TechVantage, the crisis was escalating. The client relations team was overwhelmed with emails. Some customers were demanding proof of ownership, while others were inquiring about switching to competitors. By 10:45 a.m., Nathan received an email he dreaded seeing. From Olivia Bennett. To Nathan Sterling, TechVantage Executive Board. Subject: all discussions regarding patent licensing must go through Precision Systems Legal Department. I will not entertain personal inquiries on this matter. A furious growl escaped Nathan as he slammed his phone onto the table. Olivia had blocked every possible escape route. Within a single morning, TechVantage had lost complete control. The stock price continued to plummet. The board scheduled an emergency meeting for the afternoon. Rumors began to spread. Was Nathan Sterling's career at risk? Back at Precision Systems, Olivia gazed out the window from the top floor. Her coffee long since gone cold. The strategy she had orchestrated was unfolding exactly as planned. The battle wasn't over yet, but TechVantage was crumbling faster than expected. She picked up her phone and sent a brief message to Jonathan. Step 1 is complete. They'll be reaching out soon. A minute later his response came. Let them sweat for a few more days. Let them feel the pressure. She leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes for a brief moment. They had thought they could discard her without consequences. Now they were about to pay a far higher price than they had ever imagined. The boardroom at TechVantage was eerily silent. A place that usually buzzed with confidence and control now felt suffocating, like the last moments before a ship went under. Nathan Sterling sat at the head of the long glass conference table, staring at the grim faces of his executive team. The numbers on the large screen at the far end of the room were flashing red. TechVantage's stock had dropped 15% in 2 days, and it wasn't stopping. The legal team was scrambling, reviewing every document, every contract, every outdated policy, searching desperately for a loophole, a way to claw back what had been lost. But there was nothing. They had no claim to the algorithm. The software that powered AccountSphere, their best-selling product, belonged to Olivia Bennett, and by extension to Precision Systems. Nathan exhaled sharply, fingers pressing into his temples as another furious email from the board chairman appeared on his screen. We need a solution, Nathan. If you don't have one by end of day, the board will meet without you. He clenched his jaw. He knew exactly what that meant. Across the table, Claire Whitmore shifted uncomfortably, finally breaking the silence. We need to negotiate. Nathan's eyes snapped to her. Negotiate. Claire's voice was forcedly steady. We need to go to Precision Systems and work out a licensing deal before we lose everything. Nathan scoffed. You think she'll just agree? She won't even take my calls. A younger executive, visibly nervous, cleared his throat. We don't have a choice, sir. The clients are panicking. We lost another 2 enterprise accounts this morning. If we don't secure licensing rights, we'll be forced to halt software updates. Nathan slammed his fist on the table, cutting him off. I know. The truth burned. TechVantage had one product that truly set it apart, and now that product was at risk of becoming obsolete. Without access to the algorithm's updates, AccountSphere would start falling behind in just a few months. Competitors were circling like sharks. The press was already speculating. Can TechVantage survive without its core technology? And worst of all, Olivia wasn't rushing to the table. She was letting them bleed. At 2 p.m., Nathan Sterling stood before his employees for a last-minute all-hands meeting. Hundreds of staff filled the Open Concept headquarters, looking up at him from behind their desks. The energy in the room was tense, an undercurrent of fear running through the ranks. For years, Nathan had commanded authority. Employees had respected him, some had even feared him. But today, as he looked out over the crowd, he saw doubt. Word had spread. They knew about the legal battle. They knew about the clients leaving. They knew about Olivia's patent. Nathan cleared his throat. There have been some unexpected challenges, he began, his voice even. But we are actively working to resolve them. A hand shot up from the middle of the room. It was Ryan Delgado. Nathan's chest tightened. He already knew what was coming. Did TechVantage really fail to secure the patent for the algorithm? Ryan asked, his voice level but cutting. Is it true that we no longer own the technology powering AccountSphere? A murmur rippled through the crowd. Employees exchanged glances. Nathan's jaw tightened. "We are in discussions with Precision Systems." "So it's true." Ryan didn't wait for him to finish. His voice was sharp, carrying across the room. "You let go of the one person who actually understood this technology. And now we're paying for it." Silence. A younger developer whispered something to a coworker. Nathan could feel the room shifting, the control slipping from his grasp. Then it happened. Bing. A notification popped up on Ryan's phone. Then another. And another. All around the room, employees started glancing at their phones. Some gasped. Others immediately began typing. Nathan's pulse pounded in his ears. He turned to Claire, who had already pulled out her own phone, reading something with a face drained of color. "What?" Nathan demanded. She slowly turned the screen toward him. It was an open resignation letter, signed by Ryan Delgado and 5 other engineers from Olivia's former team. "We will be joining Precision Systems. Effective immediately." They had coordinated their resignations to hit all at once, publicly. Nathan's throat went dry. The meeting collapsed into chaos. Some employees were whispering in shock. Others were already updating their LinkedIn profiles. Within minutes, the news was spreading online, the tech community exploding with commentary. Olivia had not only taken the technology, she had taken the people who built it. Nathan knew what this meant. TechVantage was done. By the end of the day, the board of directors had scheduled an emergency session. By the next morning, TechVantage's stock had dropped another 8%. By the end of the week, Nathan Sterling was forced to resign. And by Monday, the company's legal team, now desperate, had finally reached out to Precision Systems to discuss licensing terms. At Precision Systems, Olivia watched it all unfold with a quiet, calculated patience. She didn't gloat. She didn't celebrate. She simply waited. When the email from TechVantage's interim CEO, Thomas Caldwell, landed in her inbox, she finally opened it. "Dr. Bennett, I would like to formally discuss a fair licensing arrangement for your patented technology. We are prepared to acknowledge your contributions publicly and make the necessary amends for past oversights. Please let us know your availability." Olivia forwarded the email to Jonathan without a word. Seconds later, his reply came back. "Phase 1 complete. Well played." She took a slow, deep breath and leaned back in her chair. For 15 years, she had been undervalued, ignored, dismissed. Now the world finally knew the truth. And TechVantage was paying the price. The morning light filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Olivia's office, casting long shadows across the polished desk. She sat with a quiet sense of satisfaction as she refreshed her inbox. It had been 3 months since TechVantage's downfall, and today marked another turning point in her journey. A new email appeared at the top of her screen. From Thomas Caldwell. Subject: Finalized licensing agreement. She clicked it open. TechVantage had finally surrendered. After weeks of negotiation, they had agreed to pay 3 times the industry standard to license the algorithm they had once taken for granted. More importantly, the contract publicly acknowledged Olivia as the sole creator of the technology, a humiliating admission for a company that had once dismissed her. She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. It wasn't about revenge. It was about recognition. For 15 years, she had watched others take credit for her work, reduce her contributions to footnotes in company reports, and treat her as if she were disposable. Now the industry knew her name. And she wasn't just another engineer anymore. She was a leader, a force in the industry, someone whose innovations couldn't be ignored. A knock at the door pulled her from her thoughts. Jonathan Pierce stepped in, holding a printed copy of the finalized contract and a bottle of champagne. "You did it," he said, setting the contract on her desk. "They folded." Olivia smirked. "They didn't have a choice." He chuckled, pulling out a chair across from her. "No, they didn't. But you didn't just beat them, Olivia. You changed the game." She studied him for a moment. "It wasn't about beating them," she said quietly. It was about making sure people like me never have to fight this battle again. Jonathan nodded, understanding. And that's why you're not just a brilliant engineer. You're a visionary. She picked up her pen and signed the final contract. With one stroke of ink, TechVantage's fate was sealed. The National Technology Innovation Conference was buzzing with energy. Hundreds of attendees filled the grand ballroom, some engaged in hushed conversations, others scrolling through their phones as they waited for the keynote speaker to take the stage. A year ago, Olivia had attended this same conference, sitting in the back of the room while Nathan Sterling had stood on this very stage, presenting her work as if it were his own. Today, the stage belonged to her. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. And now, please welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Olivia Bennett, Chief Innovation Officer at Precision Systems and the inventor of the distributed processing algorithm that is revolutionizing data handling across industries. Applause erupted as she stepped onto the stage. She took a deep breath, looking out at the sea of faces, executives, engineers, young professionals, all of them watching her. For years, she had been unseen, unheard. Not anymore. She adjusted the microphone and began. When I started in this industry, I believed that hard work and brilliance were enough, she said. That if you created something valuable, the world would recognize it. Pause. But that's not how it works, is it? Few chuckles from the audience. They knew. Innovation doesn't speak for itself, she continued. It needs a voice. And if you don't claim ownership of your work, someone else will. She saw people nodding, some taking notes. She told them about the importance of documentation, of knowing your worth, of never assuming loyalty from a company that sees you as replaceable. She didn't mention TechVantage by name, she didn't need to. By the time she finished, the applause was louder than before. People weren't just clapping for her success, they were seeing themselves in her story. And that, she realized, was the true victory. Later that evening, at the conference gala, a young woman approached her. She was barely 30, nervous but determined. Dr. Bennett, she began, your story changed the way I approach my work. I started documenting everything, every line of code I write, every breakthrough I have. 'Cause I don't ever want to be in a position where someone else takes credit for what I built. Olivia smiled. This was why she did it. That's smart, she said. Your innovations deserve protection. You deserve recognition. The young woman nodded, eyes shining. And for the first time, Olivia realized. She hadn't just won a battle for herself. She had set a precedent. She had rewritten the rules for the next generation. 1 year after leaving TechVantage, Olivia sat in her spacious office at Precision Systems, reviewing the latest quarterly innovation report. Under her leadership, the company had launched 3 groundbreaking products, securing a dominant position in the industry. A knock at the door. Jonathan walked in, a bottle of champagne in one hand and 2 glasses in the other. He set them down on her desk with a knowing smile. Happy anniversary. She raised an eyebrow. Anniversary. He tapped the champagne bottle. 1 year since you left TechVantage. And the board wanted me to tell you personally. We just surpassed them in market valuation. Olivia exhaled, a small, satisfied smile playing at her lips. That's what happens, she said, when you value innovation properly. Jonathan poured the champagne, and just as he handed her a glass, her assistant walked in, holding an envelope. This just arrived for you, the assistant said. Olivia opened it, revealing an invitation to speak at the Women in Technology Leadership Summit. Topic: Owning your intellectual value. How proper documentation changed an industry. She let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. You've become an icon, you know, Jonathan remarked, watching her reaction. The story of the CEO who didn't recognize what he had until it was gone. It's now a corporate cautionary tale. She took a sip of champagne, letting the weight of it all sink in. It was never about revenge, she said finally. It was about proving a point. Jonathan raised his glass. To recognition. She clinked her glass against his. To knowing your worth. And as the sun dipped below the skyline, Olivia Bennett reflected on her journey, not just as a survivor of corporate politics, but as a pioneer. She had fought. She had won. And now, her name was exactly where it belonged.